The poor, desperate mother begs, "Take me, just save my son." The woman lived in a small, broken house at the edge of the city, where narrow streets were always covered with dust and noise. The roof leaked when it rained, and the walls had cracks that grew wider every year. It was not a place anyone would choose to live, but for her, it was the only shelter she could afford. She shared this tiny space with her young son, who was the center of her world. Everything she did, every breath she took was for him. She woke up every morning before sunrise. While the city was still quiet, she would sit up on her thin mattress and listen to her son's soft breathing. Those few peaceful moments were the only time she felt calm. She watched his chest rise and fall and thanked life that he was still beside her. Then she would quietly get up so she would not wake him and begin another long day. Her life had not always been like this. Once, she had dreams. She imagined a simple but stable future where she would have a safe home and her child would go to school without worry. But life did not follow her plans. Her husband had left years ago, disappearing without warning or explanation. He left behind debts, shame, and silence. From that day on, she learned what it truly meant to be alone. Finding work was never easy. She took whatever she could get, cleaning houses, washing clothes, carrying loads at local shops, or helping in small kitchens. The pay was low, and sometimes she was not paid at all. People knew she was desperate, and many took advantage of that. Still, she never complained. She told herself that as long as her son ate, she could endure anything. Most days, she skipped meals. She would say she had already eaten while giving her food to her son. She learned how to smile even when her stomach hurt. At night, when hunger became too strong, she drank water and tried to sleep. Her body grew weaker, but her love grew stronger. Her son was a gentle child. He did not ask for toys or expensive things. He knew his mother struggled, even though she tried to hide it. Sometimes he would offer her half of his food, saying he was full. Those moments broke her heart, but they also gave her strength. She promised herself that he would never feel unwanted or unloved. The neighborhood they lived in was full of people like her, tired faces, heavy hearts, and endless worries. Everyone was fighting their own battles. Some had lost jobs, others had lost family members, and many had lost hope. Still, life went on. Children played in the streets, laughter mixed with shouting, and the smell of cheap food filled the air every evening. She tried to keep her son away from the worst of it. She made rules for him: stay close to home, avoid trouble, respect others. She wanted him to grow up with values, even if they had nothing else. She believed that character mattered more than money, even though money ruled their lives. Every night before sleep, she told him stories. Not stories of kings or magic, but stories of kindness, honesty, and courage. She wanted him to believe that goodness still existed in the world. As he listened, his eyes would slowly close, and she would sit beside him until he slept. Only then would she allow herself to cry quietly. The fear never left her. She feared sickness, accidents, and the future. One small problem could destroy everything she had built. She had no savings, no support, and no one to turn to. Still, every morning she stood up and faced the world again. She had no choice. One day, while working at a house far from her neighborhood, she overheard people talking about opportunities, about money, about lives so different from hers that they felt unreal. She felt a small ache in her chest, not jealousy, but sadness. She wondered how life could be so unfair, giving so much to some and so little to others. On her way home that evening, she walked past shops filled with bright lights and expensive items. She held her son's hand tightly, afraid he might ask questions she could not answer, but he said nothing. He simply walked beside her, trusting her completely. That trust weighed heavily on her heart. At home, she counted the few coins she had earned that day. They were barely enough for food. She sighed but forced herself to stay calm. She cooked a simple meal and watched her son eat. His smile, even over something so small, reminded her why she kept going. As days passed, her body showed signs of exhaustion. Her hands were rough, her back hurt constantly, and her sleep was restless. Sometimes she felt dizzy while working, but she never stopped. Rest was a luxury she could not afford. She often thought about the future. What would happen when her son grew older? Would she be able to support his education? Would he face the same struggles she did? These thoughts haunted her, especially at night. Still, she held on to one belief, that a mother's love could protect her child, even in the hardest times. She prayed quietly whenever she could. Not for wealth or comfort, but for strength. Strength to survive another day, to smile for her son, and to keep hope alive. She believed that as long as she did not give up, something good might happen one day. But life was already preparing a test far greater than she imagined. Small signs began to appear. Her son seemed more tired than usual, his appetite slowly changed, and his laughter became less frequent. At first, she told herself it was nothing. Children get tired, she thought. They recover. Still, a strange fear settled deep inside her. She tried to ignore it, pushing it away with work and routine. She could not afford fear. Fear would break her, and she could not break, not now, not ever. As she lay beside her son one night, listening to his breathing, she felt a tightness in her chest she could not explain. She held him closer, as if trying to protect him from the world itself. In the darkness, her eyes remained open long after he fell asleep. She did not know that this was only the beginning. The fragile balance she had fought so hard to maintain was about to collapse. And when it did, she would be forced to make choices no mother should ever have to face. For now, she closed her eyes and whispered a silent promise to her sleeping child, that no matter what happened, she would never stop fighting for him. Her worst fear began to take shape one quiet morning when her son woke up unusually pale and weak. At first, she thought it was a simple cold or flu, something that would pass with rest and care. She rubbed his small back, whispered gentle words, and gave him the little breakfast she could afford. But as the day passed, she noticed his movements slowing, his laughter fading, and his eyes looking heavy and dull. A cold knot of worry tightened in her chest. Something was not right. She tried to keep calm. She did not want to alarm him because children often feel fear faster than adults do. She held him close, talking softly, telling him silly stories to make him smile. For a moment, she almost believed it might be nothing serious. But deep down, the nagging thought refused to leave. Her son was very sick. The next morning, his condition worsened. He complained of pain in his stomach and his head. He could barely get out of bed. She panicked but forced herself to remain composed. She borrowed some money from a neighbor and hurried to the nearest clinic. The building was small, crowded, and hot, and the doctor moved quickly from one patient to another. She explained her son's symptoms, trying to speak calmly while tears threatened to spill over. The doctor listened, frowned, and asked questions she did not fully understand. Then he gave her the news. Her son needed urgent tests and possibly hospitalization. She froze. The cost of these treatments would be more than she could ever earn in months, maybe even years. Her heart pounded and she felt a cold weight settle over her chest. She did not cry in front of her son. She forced a smile and said, "It's okay, we'll manage." But inside, panic clawed at her every thought. She returned home, her mind racing. She counted her savings again. Not enough. She tried calling relatives, friends, anyone who might help, but no one could. Some had their own struggles, others simply ignored her calls. Her son watched silently, sensing her tension. She brushed her hands through his hair, trying to hide her despair. "It's okay, my love. We will figure it out," she said, though she could barely believe the words herself. Days passed and his condition did not improve. Every morning she watched him struggle to eat. Every night she checked his breathing. She could not sleep. Her body ached from exhaustion, her mind raced with fears, and her spirit felt battered. She sold small possessions to pay for consultations. Her old jewelry, some clothes, even a small stove she had used for years. She kept thinking she could buy time, but each visit to the clinic made it clear the bills would never stop. One evening, as she sat beside her son's bed, she broke down quietly. She pressed her face against his tiny hands, silently praying she could save him. She whispered promises she could not keep. "You will be fine. I will protect you. I will do anything." Her tears fell silently. She had never felt more powerless. She had always thought that hard work could solve most problems, but this was different. No amount of work could pay for the life her child needed. She began seeking other options. She spoke to local charities, social workers, and even religious organizations, hoping for help. Some offered small contributions, which could pay for a few days of medication, but it was never enough. Every solution seemed temporary. Every promise of assistance seemed to fade before it could reach her. Desperation began to creep in, and she realized she might have to consider choices she had never imagined before. Her days became a cycle of hope and despair. She woke early, trying to find more work, asking for help, borrowing money, anything to keep her son alive. Her nights were filled with sleepless worry. Sometimes she would sit outside their broken home, staring at the distant city lights, feeling the weight of the world pressing on her shoulders. She could not understand why life had been so cruel. She had given everything she had to her child, yet it still felt like it might not be enough. The child's illness worsened. He began vomiting and refusing food. The mother tried to comfort him, telling him stories and rubbing his back, but the weakness in his small body was growing. One night she held him tightly, rocking him gently, and whispered, "I will not let anything happen to you. Not ever." Her voice shook. She could feel her own heart breaking. With no other choice, she visited larger hospitals, ones with more resources, hoping they could offer treatment. But the costs were far higher. The hospital staff were polite but firm. Without payment, no one could admit her son. She tried to plead, explaining her desperate situation. But desperation alone could not pay for tests, medicine, and the doctor's time. She left with a heavy heart, holding her child as he grew weaker in her arms. Days blurred into nights. She skipped meals entirely, using her money to buy only the most essential medicine. She refused to sleep until her son slept, staying awake to monitor him. Her body ached, her hands trembled, but she could not stop. Every time she saw him struggle to breathe, her determination grew stronger. She had already lost so much, she could not lose him too. Neighbors began to notice her struggles. Some whispered behind her back, others offered small help, a plate of food, a few coins, or a kind word. But it was never enough. She had already sold everything of value. Every resource had been exhausted. She knew she was running out of time. Each passing day was a battle against both her son's illness and the impossible cost of saving him. The mother thought of giving up, but she could not. She imagined life without her son and felt a pain so deep it was almost unbearable. She tried to think clearly, to plan, to find some hidden solution. She walked through crowded markets and rich neighborhoods, wondering if anyone might help a desperate mother. She approached clinics and small charities, explaining her situation, but help came slowly or not at all. The world seemed indifferent to her suffering. One night she held her son close and whispered every memory of her own childhood, every dream she had ever had, and every hope she had for his future. Her tears fell freely onto his hair. "I will not let you go," she said. "I will do anything." Anything. In that moment, she realized she had reached the edge of what she could endure. If she could not find help soon, she might lose him forever. The urgency grew. She started thinking about options she had never considered before, about people she had never dared approach. Fear and shame battled with hope and love in her heart. But one thought remained constant. She would give her life, her freedom, her dignity, anything, if it meant her son could live. Her desperation became the defining force of her life. She realized that survival was no longer just about working hard or being patient. It was about taking action, no matter how difficult or frightening. Every step she took, every decision she made was guided by one principle: save her son, whatever it costs. And so she prepared herself. She had no idea what the future would bring, no certainty of help or success, but one thing was clear: she would not allow her child to die because of poverty or misfortune. Her love and determination became sharper than fear. Her world had shrunk to one goal, one purpose, one desperate mission: to save the boy who was her everything. The mother knew that time was slipping through her fingers. Her son's condition was getting worse every day. He was smaller, weaker, and quieter than he had ever been. Even when he tried to smile, it did not reach his eyes. Seeing him like this broke her heart into pieces, yet she could not afford to cry in front of him. She had to appear strong, even when the fear inside her burned like fire. She started thinking of every possible way to save him. She had asked neighbors, friends, and local charities, but no one had enough resources to help. Her savings were gone, her possessions were sold, and the little money she earned each day barely covered food and medicine. She realized she had reached the limits of what ordinary effort could achieve. The answer was clear. She had to reach beyond what she had ever imagined, beyond the safety and comfort of her pride. One morning, she walked through the crowded streets, holding her son's small hand. His steps were slow and unsteady, and she could feel the tremble in his grip. She looked around, thinking of the wealthy people she had seen from a distance, people whose lives were so different from hers. She hated the idea of asking them, but hatred had no place when her son's life was at stake. She swallowed her fear and resolved to seek help from anyone who could offer it. She began by approaching local business owners, explaining her situation in a trembling voice. Some ignored her. Some offered small help, maybe a bag of rice or a few coins, but nothing enough to cover the mounting medical bills. Each rejection left a heavier weight in her chest, but she refused to stop. Her love for her son pushed her forward, and her pride became a distant memory. She remembered the nights she had spent holding him, praying and whispering promises. She could not let him down now. Then she heard about people who were known to help in urgent situations. They were powerful, wealthy, and sometimes feared. People said they had influence, that they could make things happen quickly. The thought frightened her. She had always lived a life of honesty and modesty, never asking for favors from strangers, especially not strangers with power. But fear of losing her child drowned her fear of judgment. She knew she had no choice. She dressed her son carefully, covering his thin frame with warm clothes, and set out to meet these people. Her hands shook, her stomach twisted with anxiety, but she kept her voice steady. Every step toward them was a battle with her own shame, yet she forced herself to speak. She explained her son's illness, the hospital bills, and her desperate situation. She looked into their eyes, hoping for a glimpse of kindness, a sign that help could come. The first few responses were cold. People were polite but firm, reminding her that they could not help everyone. She felt a sinking feeling in her chest. Her hope flickered like a candle in the wind. She wanted to turn back, to retreat into the safety of her small life, but when she looked at her son's pale face, she could not. Every beat of his heart was a reason to keep going. Finally, after many attempts, she found someone willing to listen. This person did not offer help freely. There was a price. The mother's heart sank as she realized the implications. She would have to give something of herself in return. Pride, freedom, comfort, all of it. The offer made her stomach twist with fear, but she looked at her son and knew what she had to do. She could endure anything for him, even if it meant sacrificing parts of her own life. Her voice trembled as she spoke. "I will do anything," she whispered. "Anything, just save my son. Please, I beg you. I have nothing else to offer but my love and my life." The words felt heavy, almost unbearable to say aloud, but she repeated them over and over because she had no other option. Her son watched her quietly, sensing her tension. He did not understand everything she said, but he understood the seriousness in her voice. He held her hand, trying to give her courage in the only way he could. Seeing him weak and trusting her completely made the decision even harder. She was giving away her freedom, but she was keeping his life. And in her heart, that was worth everything. Days turned into nights as negotiations and discussions took place. She explained every detail of her son's condition, the urgency of the treatment, and the impossibility of affording it herself. Each word she spoke carried the weight of fear, hope, and desperation. Each question she answered felt like a trial of her soul. She poured everything into her words, hoping they would be enough. Finally, an agreement was reached. Her son would receive treatment. He would have a chance to live. Relief washed over her, mixed with fear for what she would have to endure. She would have to work under conditions she could not fully control, giving up parts of herself to ensure her son's survival. The thought was terrifying, but it was a price she was willing to pay. When her son was admitted to the hospital, she sat by his side constantly. She held his hand during procedures, whispered comforting words when he cried, and stayed awake through the long nights. She watched as doctors and nurses worked tirelessly to stabilize him. Each small improvement felt like a victory, each step backward a heart-wrenching setback. She clung to hope with every ounce of strength she had left. During this time, she reflected on her life. She thought of the nights she had gone hungry, the days she had worked without rest, and the endless sacrifices she had made. She realized that every struggle, every hardship had prepared her for this moment. She had learned endurance, patience, and determination. And now, that experience was being put to the ultimate test. Her days became filled with hospital visits, endless explanations, and constant worry. She had no rest, no comfort, and very little sleep, but her love for her son gave her energy. She watched him slowly regain strength, his small body responding to medicine and care. Every smile, every bite of food, every laugh he could muster became a beacon of hope. Even in moments of relief, fear lingered. She knew the path ahead would not be easy. She would have to navigate a harsh world, follow strict conditions, and endure hardship to keep her son alive. Yet she faced it with courage because the alternative, losing him, was unbearable. Her community noticed the change in her. People who had once ignored her struggles now looked at her with quiet respect. They saw a mother willing to give everything, willing to face the impossible. Some offered small help, extra food, a comforting word, but the bulk of the journey was hers alone. She had become a symbol of relentless love and determination, a quiet hero in her own story. As her son slowly recovered, the mother realized that her sacrifice had only just begun. The deal she had made was not simple or easy. Every day, she would have to face challenges she could not predict. But the relief of knowing her son was alive gave her the courage to continue. She had crossed the line from ordinary struggle to extraordinary courage, and there was no turning back. In those moments, sitting beside her son's hospital bed, she understood the depth of a mother's love. It was a force stronger than fear, stronger than shame, and stronger than the world itself. She knew she could endure anything, face any hardship, and confront any danger as long as it meant her child would survive. And so, the mother made a silent promise to herself. No matter what sacrifices were required, no matter how difficult the path, she would not stop. She would face every challenge with determination. She would endure every hardship with courage, and she would protect her son with every ounce of her being. This was the moment that defined her, not as a woman broken by poverty or fear, but as a mother whose love had no limits. She had entered a world of uncertainty, sacrifice, and struggle, but her heart remained strong. Her son's life depended on her, and she was ready to pay any price. The days ahead would be filled with challenges she could not yet imagine, but she faced them with a resolve stronger than anything she had ever known. Love had become her shield, hope her guide, and sacrifice her path. And with each passing moment, she held onto the one truth that had carried her this far. She would do anything, endure anything, and give everything, just to save her son. Her son's recovery was slow, but each small improvement brought hope. The mother watched carefully as he began to eat a little more each day, as his color returned, and as his energy slowly came back. She smiled quietly, though exhaustion weighed heavily on her body. Nights without proper sleep had become her routine, and days were filled with constant worry and endless errands. Yet, she felt a quiet pride. She had kept her promise to fight for him, but the cost of saving him was already becoming clear. The arrangement she had made to get his treatment was not simple. It required her to work long hours under strict conditions. She had to leave her home early in the morning and return late at night. The work was hard, demanding, and often humiliating. She endured endless instructions, criticism, and supervision. There was no room for mistakes, and every day carried the pressure of fear and expectation. Despite the hardship, she never complained. Her focus was her son. Every sore muscle, every ache in her body, every moment of fatigue was secondary to his well-being. She reminded herself that this suffering was temporary, a price for his survival. In her heart, she told herself that as long as he lived, it was worth enduring anything. Each day she pushed herself harder, knowing that the alternative, the thought of losing him, was unbearable. She missed simple pleasures. She could not rest when she wanted, could not spend time with friends, and could not even eat properly. Her meals were quick and modest, often eaten standing in a corner while she completed her tasks. She missed watching her son play freely, missed sitting quietly and sharing stories, missed the small joys of life that most people took for granted. Her existence had become one long series of sacrifices, each one a testament to her love. Yet, she held onto small moments of joy. When her son laughed at a joke she told, when he finished a meal without complaint, when he asked her questions with curiosity and innocence, she felt warmth in her heart. These moments reminded her why she endured so much. They reminded her that every hardship, every sleepless night, every ounce of pain she bore had a purpose. Her son's life was worth everything. Sometimes, she thought about her own future and what she was giving up. She had freedom, comfort, and dreams before her son's illness. Now all of that was gone. She could not pursue opportunities, could not save money, and could not plan for herself. She had traded her own life for his survival. At times, this thought made her heart ache, but she never wavered. Her sacrifice was silent, and she bore it with dignity. The people she worked for were strict. They expected obedience and attention at all times. There was no leniency for fatigue or mistakes. She learned to move quickly, to anticipate needs, and to control her emotions even when her body screamed for rest. Her hands grew rough and calloused, her back ached constantly, and her eyes often burned from sleepless nights. She endured all of it without complaint because her focus was clear: save her son, no matter what. Despite the physical hardship, she faced emotional struggles as well. She often felt loneliness and isolation. Friends and neighbors would gossip, misunderstand, or ignore her situation. Some judged her for her circumstances, assuming that she had caused them or could have prevented them. She ignored the whispers and focused on her child, because she knew that every judgment she endured was small compared to the possibility of losing him. Evenings were the hardest. After long days of work, she would return home to care for her son. She prepared his meals, helped him bathe, and comforted him if he cried. She carried the weight of her responsibilities silently, knowing that complaining or showing weakness would not help him. Often, she stayed awake long after he fell asleep, thinking about the next day, planning how to earn money, manage work, and provide for his needs. Sleep was a luxury she could not afford. Her son began to notice her exhaustion. He would offer small gestures of care, like bringing her a blanket or trying to help her sit comfortably. He did not fully understand the sacrifices she had made, but he sensed her devotion and concern. These small acts gave her strength. Even in her fatigue, her heart warmed when he showed care. These moments reminded her that her sacrifices were meaningful, that they were noticed, and that love existed in both giving and receiving. She also learned resilience. Each challenge she faced strengthened her. She discovered courage she did not know existed within her. Fear, hardship, and pressure became familiar companions, yet she faced them with determination. She became organized, careful, and alert to every detail. Her life had transformed completely, from one of simple survival to a careful, calculated endurance for the sake of her son. Sometimes she would reflect on what she had lost. Freedom, dreams, time with friends, even her own health, all had been traded for his life. The thought could have crushed her spirit, but it did not. Instead, it reinforced her resolve. She realized that love could carry a person through unimaginable hardship. It could make her endure, persevere, and sacrifice without regret. She had become stronger because of the challenges, not despite them. Her son's condition gradually improved, but she knew she could not relax. She had to continue her sacrifices, continue working hard, and continue enduring the conditions set before her. She understood that survival was not temporary. It required ongoing effort. She had entered a new life where every day demanded vigilance, determination, and selflessness. Her role as a mother was no longer simply nurturing. It was a continuous act of bravery and resilience. She witnessed the small victories of her son's recovery with gratitude. When he could walk without support, when he laughed genuinely for the first time in weeks, when he ate a full meal, she felt a sense of triumph. These moments were proof that her sacrifices were meaningful. They reminded her why she endured pain, why she worked tirelessly, and why she had given everything. At the same time, the weight of the future pressed on her. She knew her sacrifices were not yet complete. Life would continue to test her, with new challenges and new hardships. But she also understood that she had grown capable of facing them. Each day of endurance had made her stronger, wiser, and more determined. She had become a mother who would not give up, no matter the cost. In quiet moments, when her son slept peacefully, she allowed herself to reflect. She thought about the love that had driven her, the courage that had sustained her, and the hope that had guided her. She realized that the hardships she endured were shaping both her and her son's future. The lessons of resilience, patience, and sacrifice would stay with him forever, even if he did not understand them yet. Her life had changed completely, but in that change, she found purpose. She was no longer just surviving. She was fighting, protecting, and nurturing in ways that demanded her full strength. She had discovered the power of love, the depth of sacrifice, and the importance of determination. Every pain she bore was a step toward securing a better future for her child. Even with exhaustion and uncertainty, she never allowed despair to take hold. She reminded herself daily that her sacrifices were not in vain. She watched her son grow stronger and healthier, and each improvement became a reward for her perseverance. She knew that the journey was far from over, but she also knew that her courage and devotion would carry her through whatever challenges awaited. Through the hardships, she had transformed. She had become a symbol of hope, love, and resilience. Her sacrifices were immense, but they were driven by the most powerful force in the world, a mother's love for her child. She had learned that survival was not just about life. It was about endurance, sacrifice, and unwavering devotion. And so she continued. Each day was hard, each night long, each challenge daunting, but her heart remained strong. Her son's survival was her mission, her strength, and her purpose. She had given everything she had, and she would continue to give, because love demanded no less. Every step she took, every hour she endured, was a testament to the power of a mother who would stop at nothing to protect her child. Years passed since the mother had made the unimaginable sacrifices to save her son. The boy, once frail and sickly, had grown into a strong and healthy young child. His laughter returned, brighter and more lively than ever before, filling the small home with warmth. The mother watched him play, read, and explore the world around him, feeling a mixture of relief and quiet pride. Every step he took, every word he spoke, was proof that her struggle had not been in vain. Though her son was thriving, life had left its mark on the mother. Her body carried the exhaustion of countless sleepless nights, her hands bore the marks of hard work, and her eyes reflected years of worry and sacrifice. Still, she never regretted the choices she had made. She knew that every hardship, every moment of pain, had been a necessary part of ensuring her child's survival. Her love had been the force that carried her through the darkest days, and she clung to that love as her guiding light. She spent her days ensuring that her son never lacked the basic things she had struggled to provide in his early years. She cooked his favorite meals, encouraged his studies, and listened to his thoughts and dreams with patience and interest. At times, she worried about how much he understood of her sacrifices. He was still a child, and life had not yet taught him the full weight of struggle and endurance. Yet, she hoped that one day he would see the depth of her love and realize what had been done for him. As her son grew older, he began asking questions about the past, about their life before he had become sick, about the challenges they had faced, and about why his mother worked so tirelessly. The mother answered carefully, sharing stories in ways that were gentle and comforting, revealing just enough to teach lessons without causing fear. She wanted him to understand the value of love, courage, and perseverance, but she also wanted him to feel safe, secure, and loved. The bond between them grew even stronger. Her son admired her strength and resilience without fully realizing the enormity of her sacrifices. He watched her work tirelessly, saw her patience and care, and began to learn from her example. Though he was young, he developed a sense of empathy, kindness, and responsibility. He began helping in small ways, carrying tasks she assigned, and offering gestures of gratitude. These small acts were precious to her, for they showed that her love had been noticed and appreciated. Life continued to challenge them, but the mother faced every difficulty with the knowledge that she had overcome far greater obstacles. She had learned that strength was not measured by wealth or comfort, but by endurance, courage, and the willingness to sacrifice for those you love. Every trial she had faced had prepared her for the future, and now she used her experience to navigate life with careful determination and unwavering dedication to her child. Her son's education became a priority. She ensured he attended school regularly, supplied him with books and supplies, and encouraged curiosity and learning. She could not afford luxuries, but she understood the value of knowledge and opportunity. Every lesson he learned, every skill he acquired, was a testament to her perseverance and commitment. She took pride in his accomplishments, knowing that they were built on the foundation of love, sacrifice, and unwavering support. As he approached adolescence, her son began to understand more about the past. He noticed her exhaustion, the small aches she carried, and the quiet moments when she would pause and reflect. He began asking questions more directly, sensing the weight of responsibility and care she had borne. For the first time, he heard the full story of her sacrifices, of the sleepless nights, the endless work, the difficult decisions, and the strength it had taken to save him. When he finally understood the truth, he was overwhelmed with emotion. He realized that his life, his health, and his opportunities had been secured by his mother's courage and determination. Tears filled his eyes as he embraced her, whispering words of gratitude he had not known how to express before. In that moment, the mother felt a profound sense of fulfillment. All the suffering, all the sacrifice, all the hardship had led to this connection, this understanding, this bond between them. Her son's recognition of her sacrifice changed their relationship in a profound way. He became more considerate, more responsible, and more determined to honor the life she had given him. He listened more, helped more, and expressed appreciation in ways that brought tears to her eyes. For the first time, she felt that her struggles were not only necessary but meaningful. Her life of hardship had shaped both of them, and the lessons learned were visible in the character of her son. Despite the past, the mother continued to work hard, though now with a renewed sense of purpose and hope. She had faced the worst life could offer and emerged stronger. She no longer felt the crushing fear that had once haunted her days and nights. Instead, she approached each challenge with calm determination, confident that she had the strength to endure. Her experiences had forged resilience, and she carried it like a shield, protecting both herself and her son. The neighborhood they lived in began to change as well. People who had once ignored or judged her now looked upon her with respect and admiration. She had become an example of courage and endurance, a quiet hero whose love had overcome impossible odds. Others learned from her story, inspired by her willingness to sacrifice everything for the one she loved most. Her journey became a silent testament to the power of love, perseverance, and hope. Her son grew into a young man with dreams and ambitions of his own. He understood the value of hard work and the importance of gratitude. He carried with him the lessons his mother had instilled: courage in the face of fear, strength in the face of hardship, and love that demanded sacrifice. He wanted to honor her sacrifices by living a life full of purpose, compassion, and success. The mother watched him with pride, her heart full of quiet joy. She knew that her journey had been difficult, that her path had been filled with challenges no one should face alone. Yet seeing her son thrive, happy and healthy, she understood that every tear, every ache, every sacrifice had been worth it. She had given him life, love, and opportunity, and in return he gave her gratitude, respect, and a bond that nothing could break. In quiet moments, the mother reflected on the journey they had shared. She remembered the early days of fear and desperation, the sleepless nights, the endless work, and the moments when hope seemed impossible. She saw how far they had come and felt a deep sense of accomplishment. Life had tested her in ways she never imagined, yet she had emerged with her love intact and her child safe. Though she knew challenges would continue to come, she faced the future with optimism. She had learned that hardship could be endured, that sacrifice could bring reward, and that love was the most powerful force in the world. Her story was no longer just about struggle. It was about hope, resilience, and the unbreakable bond between a mother and her child. She allowed herself moments of rest now, small joys she had long denied herself. She enjoyed her son's laughter, celebrated his achievements, and cherished the quiet, ordinary moments of life that once seemed impossible. She found comfort in knowing that her sacrifices had not been in vain, that her child was thriving, and that the future held promise. The mother's journey, though filled with suffering and hardship, had ultimately led to redemption and hope. Her son's life was a living testament to her courage and love. She had faced the worst life could offer, endured it with determination, and emerged stronger, wiser, and full of quiet pride. The bond between them, strengthened by years of sacrifice and devotion, was unshakable. As her son grew older and began to make his own path in the world, he carried with him the lessons of love, endurance, and sacrifice. He never forgot the cost of his life, and he never forgot the strength of the woman who had given everything to protect him. Their story became a quiet inspiration, a reminder that even in the darkest times, love and courage could triumph. The mother, though tired and weathered by life's trials, felt a profound peace. She had done everything she could, given everything she had, and loved with every fiber of her being. Her son's survival, happiness, and gratitude were the ultimate reward. In the end, she understood that true success was not measured by wealth or comfort, but by the lives we protect, the love we give, and the sacrifices we are willing to make for those we hold most dear. And so the story closes not with an ending of struggle, but with the quiet, enduring triumph of love. A mother's devotion had saved a life, shaped a future, and forged a bond that would last forever. Her journey had been long, painful, and uncertain, but in the end, it had created a life filled with hope, gratitude, and the enduring power of a mother's love.